Me. I shouldn't have hit record that early. Hey everybody, I'd like to give you all a video on discussing why the Second Amendment is so important and why those of us who support the Second Amendment do so sometimes vehemently, but rather strongly defend the Second Amendment. And first of all, I see the Second Amendment as a extension of the basic right of existence to self-preservation and self-defense. From what I see in just observing nature, seeing what the Bible says about living and existing and all of that, it's a basic right of existence to preserve your existence. Whether it's foraging for food, just make sure you physically can stay alive, or whether it's protecting yourself against evil that wants to destroy your life, and unfortunately sometimes that has to be done lethally. It's all self-preservation, which is a basic right of existence. And so the Second Amendment is a further extension of that. Secondly, I agree with the line of logic that says without the Second Amendment there will be no other amendments of the Bill of Rights. I just look into other countries that don't have the Second Amendment. Largely speaking, they don't have the First Amendment right protections that we do in this country. They don't have the Fourth Amendment protections against illegal search and seizures and due process and all that stuff. They don't have all those countries don't have the basic human rights preserved for us in the Constitution like we do. And I believe that's largely because of the Second and First Amendment. I believe First and Second Amendment go hand in hand. They're just separated because they discuss different topics. But I believe especially all of the Bill of Rights do, but especially the first two are arguably the most important. I could give you a whole long video on that, but I strongly believe in that. Without the Second Amendment, there wouldn't be a First, there wouldn't be a Fourth, there wouldn't be an Eighth, there wouldn't be any of the Bill of Rights without the Second Amendment. And thirdly, just think if all of the other Bill of Rights were restricted and limited like the Second Amendment is. Let's just, for instance, compare the First Amendment right to the NFA. You know, that the NFA restricts a lot of things, but like they restrict civilians from owning full auto weapons without filing the right paperwork and a lot of different stuff like that. Well, excuse me. Imagine if we restricted free speech like that. Imagine if, in order to have a radio show where you would give your political opinion that would be contrary to the government, whatever political party is in office, there's almost no telling anymore. There's almost no difference anymore, just names and people spitting at each other. But imagine if you wanted to start a radio show, but you were not legally allowed to start that radio show, largely because in order to legally start a radio show like that, you would have to go through an extensive 6-month background check where your criminal record gets looked into, all your family, extended family, immediate family, dead family, your criminal records get looked into. You have to go through a 6 months background check. You have to pay a fine and a tax on the radio show before you start the radio show, and you have to apply for that permit in order to be allowed to have that radio show, because you would be spewing your opinions and your free speech at a high rate of distribution. Whereas, say, if you have, let's say at the same time, you could do the same thing on Twitter or Facebook, as long as you didn't do it once or twice a day. It'd be perfectly legal and fine for you to do so, to state your political opinion, dissenting or agreeing with the government on your personal accounts, but it can only be done once or twice a day. But still, you have to be background checked before you have that social media account. Just imagine all that. That's the same thing that happens to the Second Amendment. We just paint it differently, legally speaking. I'll leave the rest up to you all. I've got to get to bus visiting here. Or visiting for the bus route that we have. Long discussion. If you don't know what a bus route is, Google it. Or ask your local independent fundamental Baptist church about it. Alright. See you all next time. Until then, walk a Christian walk and carry a loaded Glock.